Hello, everyone. I will be ready in an instant. And I just noticed that Microsoft has... Oh, no, everything's fine. Don't worry. It's Microsoft. All right. Is there a presenter here? Ah, there it is. All right, hi. So I'm very happy to be here, and I welcome you to our talk. So I will present to you today a work that we have been doing with the company Next. Typically, my good friend and colleague Janine Hilda would be here to present this work with us, since it's a collaboration. Unfortunately, she is ill. So I'm now alone, which is a good thing for me, so I can say wrong things and say it's Janine's fault, she's not here. All right. But in this case, I will tell you something which is 100% true and also correct, so that we will have a smooth slide into nothing less than a completely new use case for NISQ-era quantum computers that already is giving us insight into completely new behaviors of security-relevant systems. So quantum in a nutshell is a rather interesting name, I would say. And before I tell you more about it, let me introduce you. Okay. Let me show you our collaboration. So we have the Bundesdruckerei group in Berlin. We have Next. They here painted with two locations. Like I said, this would be Janine's part to tell you what this is all about. I will focus on the Bundesdruckerei. So, like I said, I think before, we are in your pockets in the sense that all the secure identity documents and everything surrounding it are all made here in a sovereign fashion and in a secure fashion, and our purpose is to keep these documents and systems secure. So it should be clear that from here on that we need to do quantum. And more generally, we need to do quantum in a very open-minded way. And that means we need to evaluate the full stack of risks and potentials to our systems, and not only to our systems, but overall to ask the most relevant question of quantum: what are we going to do with this technology? I think there's not very much known here, but at least in security, we know some answers. There's a huge threat. We call this threat the Q-Day. And this Q-Day is approaching very fast. There was a paper here not too long ago by Craig Gidney, and he just did essentially a back-of-the-envelope computation over 40 pages. How much resources will we need to execute RSA breaking Shor's algorithm? And he concluded not that much as we thought before. So since this paper came out, there's a lot of things have changed, actually, and we now believe that someone, hopefully someone sovereign, will be able to execute the RSA algorithm, I think, in the mid-30s, which I'm not saying efficiently, I'm not saying consistently, I'm saying some execution might take place rather sooner than later. Our answer to Shor at the moment is PQC, post-quantum cryptography, which is very, very important and relevant to make the transition to these systems. But nonetheless, it's not clear whether they will hold. Like any day, someone might come along and find some quantum algorithm which will threaten PQC, and well, then it's not PQC anymore, right? So this threat is always open. We don't know yet. Essentially, we know pretty much not anything about what quantum computers are capable of, except for a couple of algorithms. But our chance here is to kind of circumvent all of this development. Let's not think about complexity classes. Let's not think about Shor's algorithm or like this large-scale hardware. Let's think about the point that quantum technologies is a thing, is a tool that does something with quantum states. And so with quantum states, we are in a position where we can start using quantum effects to our advantage and gain security properties that are not that we are not able to see in the classical world. So what I mean precisely is quantum communication networks. In quantum communication, we use the property that quantum states cannot experience certain levels of insight such that the security is guaranteed. And this is our big chance to develop this quantum communication networks. And we also don't know here how many applications will be possible. But there is a little bit of an issue, so we need to consider this to be a bit more secure against the top threat. But the problem is the technology that is developed is not accessible at the moment. So we have a big tension, very, very big tension. We need to develop these innovations as soon as possible. We need to start thinking about it. We need to start building them. But the technology is not there. So how do we do that? It's very, very hard to do, and it's just not possible to do research and development at the moment. But we need to enable this innovation. So what we were thinking with Next together, we just put the quantum communication, all aspects of it, into an ion trap quantum computer. And then we kind of replay everything that the quantum communication is doing in the quantum computer, and by that we get insight, we get the possibility to do analytics on quantum networks which are not available at the moment, but will be built in the future. So let me show you an example how this might look, and for that let's look at QKD. So this is the principle that I mean. So we have quantum internet, we have some Alice, and Alice has access to some quantum memory. She has access to a classical computer. Then there is a quantum channel. There's also a public classical channel in a generic scenario. Then there is a Bob, a receiver, and then there is some eavesdropper Eve who does things to this whole communication channel. In theory, this is 100% secure. Like, you can prove it. In practice, this is much more difficult. And, well, you can prove some things here. But we put every aspect that you see there into an ion trap quantum computer. So this is Alice. Alice has some quantum memory. This is an ion. This is an ion. And then there is another ion that Alice sends to this ion. This is Bob. And then there is an eavesdropper Eve. And ideally, this would be a quantum twin of the quantum communication. Not digital twin. It's a quantum twin. So it's an emulation of the quantum communication inside an ion trap. And an ion trap is the same size as a nutshell. So we have this quantum internet in a nutshell. Let me give you an example with QKD. So QKD is a process to send encrypted keys for encryption in a very secure way on paper. So there are proofs that QKD works, and the idea here is to abuse the fact that if you prepare a quantum state, so normally I would play this game with Janine. So please excuse me if I'm not that good alone, but imagine an apple, and I want to give the apple to another person on the other side, and I send it. So if you give this apple to the other person, everything's fine. And if you do it classically, right, so in the middle there might be a person who would like to have a copy of this apple, so they kind of take this apple and they copy it and then they push it forward. But if it's a quantum apple, whatever that is, you send it. In the middle there would be an attacker who really likes to understand and clone this apple to have the same copy of this apple. Whatever they would do to this apple, it would kind of degrade the quality of the sender apple, because you have like a conservation of information, so the quality of the apple is conserved. As soon as someone tries to get something from this quality, the apple will be destroyed automatically. So if there's an eavesdropper who tries to copy it, there would be something arriving at the receiver which would be bad. So you would see there's a trace of some eavesdropping in the quantum sense, and you could just throw it out, you could abort it. You could not say whether there was an attacker or not, but you could say that something went wrong. So this is kind of the principle of QKD, which is a quantum effect. So you cannot alter, you cannot copy, you cannot gain too much information without being detected, right? And now you can blow this concept up. And you can create very sophisticated proofs around it with math on paper, which will show you that this process with QKD is secure. And this is the message that we got a lot. It is secure. It's not wrong. But in reality, we need to be more careful. So in reality, these proofs, they work very, very well in their assumptions of the model. What they cannot capture, or they can capture, but it's like very, very hard, is the effect of the devices. So how the QKD protocols are happening in reality. There are quantum devices involved, and they are not perfect. Or there are some attackers who attack the device themselves. This is also not part of the proofs anymore, or very hard to integrate. As far as we know, there is no proof around that can actually prove security for QKD in a generic setting in reality. This is not there, okay? And it's very, very hard to integrate these effects, imperfections, and side channels. And this is kind of pointing into a direction that we need some way to evaluate these proofs in a very realistic setting, right? So we put these quantum QKD protocols into the ion trap, and by that we have an emulation layer of QKD. You can see this here. There's Alice, Bob, and Eve. And here we can test all these properties that I just mentioned. We can put the proof into the ion trap, like there's a communication protocol. It will be safe, it will be secure, because the best possible attack that I can execute, quantum attack on the ion itself, and I should have mentioned it, we are in a quantum computer now, so I can execute algorithms on all these components. Okay, and one of these algorithms is kind of cloning of the state of the message that is transferred. And I can put all these effects, all the side channels, device imperfection effects, I can put these cloning attacks in there, and I can really test whether these proofs are true. And then I can also proceed to go outside the validity of these proofs and see whether security is still guaranteed. Brute force in a quantum trade, in an emulation. There is no proof around that will tell me that this will be secure, but I can just do it and check for myself whether I will have a secure key or not at the end. It's a completely controlled system, and I can just do the protocol. That's it. And what do we have to do for that? We have to kind of circumvent the usual compiling. This is not a generic computation that is usually happening on the quantum internet, on the quantum computer. Because in a quantum computer, there will be a compiler. You would put an algorithm into it. Then a compiler would transform it into the most efficient steps of circuit manipulation and the ion manipulations, such that the result will appear in the fastest way possible, with the most efficient usage of some gate set, whatever. The point is, I don't know what this will do. Here, I need to circumvent this. I need to really say to the quantum computer, these ions, Alice and Bob, they need to be separated. Then they have to be moved in a very specific way. Then very specific gates have to be acted upon that. Like not some compilation, very specific things that I want them to do have to be done here. And this is very different from what we do in normal computation. We need to have a different compilation here. But if we do this, we get access to really realistic environments, if you want. So we can really see when do these key exchanges fail. We can analyze finite key lengths, which is also rather hard to do in theory. We can introduce, since we are in a quantum computer, we can start disturbing the system. Just start punching it with some effects, and we can see whether these protocols are still secure. And this is also pretty much not possible to do classically, actually. Like we don't know these noise models for the simulation, but we can just hit the ion trap if you want and see what happens to the protocol, right? And we hope that we can help develop proofs, give new noise models that the simulations can get better for real QKD systems, so we can advance the proofs, because they're kind of, well, I'm not here to say anything negative about the QKD community, but it's very hard to do. in a QKD, the way the QKD people try to show security. It's very, very hard to do. And you need more information. You need kind of more empirical data, how your protocols will behave in certain scenarios. We can do this here. And hopefully we can give this missing empirical data for the QKD community. Here you see some results. They are published in a paper, and you can read all about it. There's the link to the archive. It's a preprint at the moment. We have released it not too long ago. But here you see everything comes together. On the left side, you have the sender. This is Alice. This is now written as a circuit, but please don't be confused if you're not familiar here. Here, Alice prepares her bit. She sends it through a quantum channel. We inject noise, so we break the channel. The qubit is sent through the channel, and we break it. In some sense, this is very easy to do on an ion trap. Then the green part is the eavesdropper who tries to copy the information as good as possible. Notice, no measurement. If I measure, everything breaks. That's the whole point. If the attacker would only be able to measure things, this would be so easy to detect them. Right? But this is the point. This is a sophisticated attack. It's not just something. And then Bob measures it. And here what you can see, this is a very well-known attack, actually, cloning very well-known. And you see the point is everything is kind of overlapping. That means the ion trap works, and we get the right results. Okay, that's for you. And here same thing, the points are overlapping. So whatever you want to see, these are sanity checks if you want. Everything works. The concept works, also in a rather unfamiliar setting with noises in there. It's really, really good. It works out. Here we get more interesting. What we did here is to say, hey, eavesdropper, I don't tell you how to attack the qubit. Find it out for yourself. I give you a quantum machine learning algorithm. Just do it. Find it. Find the best possible way to attack this QKD protocol. And the point here is it does. It just does. And the kicker here is for everything that you just seen, I need 4 qubits. My single qubit gate fidelities are like 99.98. My 2 qubit gate fidelities are like 99.95. So really, really noisy, really bad, very much NISQ error device. It works. I get real insights how the protocols should behave. They do just that. So with NISQ error devices, you can really get analytics into quantum communication protocols with very low effort. You just have to be clever about the compiler, and you have to be clever about one more thing. And this is this. The question is, how do I make these ions into a detector, if you want? So what I want to do is I want to simulate hardware imperfections. In reality, my detector and my sender, they might be not perfect. They are real technologies. They are never perfect. And in the quantum computer ecosystem, so I have a quantum chip, and then around that, there is a lot of control hardware, like some lasers. And typically, there are lasers lying around that are not used, but I use these lasers. And I just start kind of giving the ions, the sender and receiver, some disturbances. Like I try to break them. I put perturbations in them. And what you see here, these perturbations, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Essentially, what we force with these perturbations is that instead of a 0, you will measure a 1 in the detector. This is not an attack anymore. I really just disturb the ability of the receiver to receive a 0. This is a side channel attack. Like this might, it's not a real side channel attack, it's an emulation of a side channel attack. We still have to make the step to learn what we can learn about real hardware here. All right, so this is it. I don't want to spend too much time here. I have 40 seconds left. Let me show you one more thing. Don't worry about what is written here. Doesn't matter. What I'm telling you, look at this here. So what I told you is I can inject noises into the channel, right? And I can execute arbitrary algorithms in my ion trap. So what we looked at right now is we inject the noise, and then we look at the noise in the channel. And the noise will always follow a specific structure. What I can do in this setting, in this ion trap, is I can start monitoring the communication and to look whether my communication still satisfies some requirements that I injected. In this setting, this is actually kind of an idea for a new communication algorithm, for a new communication procedure, which does a lot of off-label use of known results, like, I have an error correction specialist. I don't think he likes me anymore, but still, it works, and whatever works here, we need to understand what works here. This is really new. We are in the beginning to understand what we can do with this stuff, but my point is still, and this is very important, do not underestimate NISQ-era quantum technologies. You can do things with them that are beyond being a calculator. It's not about getting the results always just faster. It's about getting results that I cannot get otherwise. And for that, I don't need a lot of qubits. Thank you.